previewing Packers Bears. We've got our injury reports. We've got predictions for how we think this game is going to go. We're going to talk about individual matchups, general strategy that we are anticipating both teams to engage. Just talk about how we think this game is going to go. And it's going to be, I think, nice to discuss the players that we expect to see on the field. Talk about new additions to the Bears since last year. And I got to say, it feels really nice that NFL football is back. Not necessarily the way that I wanted to welcome NFL football back in, but let's be real. Usually the first game of the season does kind of stink historically. Jake, you stayed up and watched the game last night, correct?
I did.
After watching the magic whatever that went on at Arrowhead, here's my question for you, Jake.
Sure.
Which of these three risks are you the most afraid of for the Packers this season? All right, is it phantom hamstring injuries to their wide receivers? Is it Justin Jones, the vaunted Chicago Bears defensive player? Or is it this Detroit Lions magical juju that causes wide open Kansas City Chiefs wide receivers to drop every pass thrown their way? Which are you the most afraid of this season?
Well, if the juju's real and like people just drop passes for them, that's not good. If that continues to happen all year long, then I'll be a little concerned about it. But no, I think it's the hamstring injuries. And it's not even just Green Bay. It's going around the league. Like there are a lot of high profile players right now, especially on the offensive side of the ball, that have hamstring injuries. And yeah, those, I mean, re-aggravating, they can be there a while. Like that is something that when you see Watson get ruled out on Friday, that's a little concerning. Like I know not to get ahead of ourselves into the injury reports and stuff, but yeah, I mean, when you see, Cooper Kupp re-aggravating a hamstring injury and he's gonna be out till October. I mean, stock down on hamstrings. Why do we need them? This is ridiculous. I can't stand it from a real football perspective and a fantasy perspective. It stinks. So yeah, that's easily it. If the receivers are going to keep getting this issue, I just leave it in the receiver room. Please don't let it spread to the tight ends. That's just the running backs. Please leave it just in one place. So hopefully you can contain it.
These soft tissue injuries are just the most frustrating thing to try and deal with when it comes to football. We got folks hopping in the chat already. Love to see it. We got Too Old for This says, as long as the Packers don't start Tony on Sunday, we should be good.
He was the Lions player of the game if I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe they traded for him last year, but then he just magically was good for a game or two last year. And then I don't know, man, I felt like the Tony that we saw last night is the Tony that we've always seen since he entered the NFL. Garrett Stritzel said it's going to be a Tums and Pepto kind of start to the season. You know what? I watched that Lions Chiefs game with a bunch of Lions fans. I have to agree. It was a little bit of a heartburner. The Caldwell Corner is talking, I think, about Christian Watson. He says he can have my hamstring. Appreciate that. All right. Let's get into the injury report. Start with you, Ryan. Talk to us about the current state of health for the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, so as of Friday, we had David Bakhtiari hasn't practiced all week. That's a presumably veteran rest. He should be good to go. Although I'm not going to lie, I just don't like that situation in general. It always feels like, we'll see. And they always make it. What I don't like is they make a big deal out of he's going to play. Like, why is that not just assumed? Isn't he fine? Can we not just say he's fine? Apparently he's not. Romeo Doubs he did come back to practice. That's great. He is listed as questionable. He should be good to go, but I'm not going to go ahead and make any assumptions. Rashawn Gary, full go. Real excited to see that. Anthony Johnson, he was full participant with a knee injury all week. Dontavian Wicks similarly has been practicing. He's also got a hamstring injury, but he seems to have been fine since basically Thursday. And then Christian Watson is the guy that is the the biggest issue here. Hamstring injury, and as you mentioned, as of Friday, it was just an immediate, yeah, he's out. It's not we're going to see how he feels in warmups. It's just, no, he's not going. So I'm not going to try to make any assumptions, but it's not my favorite thing when it was just assumed he's just not playing.
All right, we're going to probably talk quite a bit about how this wide receiver fluidity is going to impact game planning. But first, we got to hear about the state of the Chicago Bears. Take it away, Jake.
Yeah, so I know we were planning for this earlier in the week, and the injury report looked a lot more interesting. Early in the week, you had both safeties, Eddie Jackson and Jaquan Brisker, were limited Wednesday. They upgraded to full both Thursday and Friday. They're off the injury report. They're going. DeMarcus Walker was as well, defensive lineman with a calf injury on Wednesday. He was limited. He has been a full participant the last 2 days. He is good to go. There were a couple other things with Nate Davis. Personal was put under the injury. He didn't practice Thursday. Mercedes Lewis, like Bakhtiari, doing a rest thing, so he didn't practice Thursday. But the only guy that's questionable, obviously, good to report this, Tevin Jenkins, obviously on IR, so nobody gets that confused. If you don't see him out there, he's not playing for at least 4 weeks. But Dylan Cole, one of the many linebackers the Bears have, has a hamstring injury. Shocking. All these soft tissues. Didn't practice Wednesday, Thursday, and then limited Friday. He is questionable. Basically, just a special teamer. That's the Bears have concerned with, and they're pretty much full go other than Tevin Jenkins.
So let's talk about the plan for the Packers offense. Now, fortunately, they're going up against, I think, not a fantastic Bears defensive roster. I'm going to give some credit, because I think he's earned it, to Matt Eberflus, who certainly knows a lot about defense, and I think that he can dial up some stuff schematically, but it does really come down a lot to the guys that you have on the roster, and I think that there are some pretty significant weaknesses. One of the guys that I think the Packers should kind of try and pick on is second-year cornerback Kyler Gordon. He had a 49.8 PFF grade last year, and there's a thing going around on Twitter about how Kyler Gordon is like the dude to watch to break out, because supposedly he got better every game last year. I grabbed his stats. I can't find a single area where you can even fudge the numbers a little bit and suggest that he improved over the course of the season. I just don't see it. He was pretty putrid last year. They're saying he had a monster offseason with the Bears in training camp. You know, hooray, I guess. But I think that they should certainly test him out. No question about it. Of course, on the other side of the field, you got Jalen Johnson, a corner who's been around there for 3 years. He's heading into his 4th season with the Bears now. And I think that he's fine, but he's their cornerback one. If he was there, Rasul Douglas, I think that you'd be in a fine situation. But he's kind of the guy that would normally be, probably shadowing Christian Watson. Would like to have him on the field. Let's talk about what we're going to do here schematically.
It's not wrong.
Make our picks about Romeo Doubs, whether he's going to be out there or not, and what you do to try and cover up for the hole that is left by Christian Watson. Ryan, last year, Christian Watson missed quite a few games, and the Packers did not win many of those. How do the Packers adjust for his absence?
Well, I'm genuinely worried about it. I mean, we know what the problem was when defenses aren't afraid that you can kind of stretch them. They compress, and you end up playing a football game that's basically like you're in the red zone the entire way down the field. And I'm worried about that because I feel like that kind of plays into what they wanted to do anyways, try to keep everything in front of them. We're going to try to work underneath, and as they squeeze down and we can't pull those safeties and linebackers away, there's less space in the middle of the field. I can't help but feel like we're going to have to try to take some shots just to get them to back off. We need Reed to use that speed down the field. We got to get Musgrave shooting down the field, trying to see if we can push them back, because if they're going to try to compress the area of the field that we want to attack, we're not going to get anywhere. So I'm hoping that we're able to do that, and I really do hope that Romeo Doubs is there, because it seems like that's an area of success where if we can identify a one-on-one, he's going to throw it. Right? As soon as that corner turns his back, he's going to throw it up there for a 50-50. And essentially, I do think that's important. We have to send a message. Just because Christian's not here, we're still going to be attacking down the field, get them to back up. And if we can't do that successfully, I'm a little worried about our ability to do anything, including running, because they're just going to be coming downhill. They might not have the best front, but their linebackers and their safeties are going to be crashing downhill. So that's going to be the biggest thing as far as this chess match is being able to demonstrate we can still shoot down the field. My daughter's talking me through the window.
The fastest wide receivers on this roster, of course, you got Christian Watson, obviously one of the fastest players in the NFL. His 40 time was a 4.36. Jayden Reed, his combine 40 time, I thought was kind of poor, but the Packers clocked him at 4.38, they said. You also got Bo Melton on the practice squad at a 4.34. And what I have kind of said kind of forever with Bo Melton is he makes sense to me to be a guy that you would call up in Christian Watson's absence and just have him run some stretch of the field routes. That's all you're going to do is just peel away the safeties, open up some stuff underneath. And you know what? If the Bears defense is not going to respect him as a deep threat and is not going to cover him, hey, you know what? I don't think that he's the best wide receiver in the world, but if there's no defenders around him, I'll take a shot, throw the ball down to him, force him to respect him. I think that's about it in terms of, any kind of impressive speed. Romeo Doubs to me is a guy who kind of, once he's got a full head of speed going, I think his top end speed is good. I think his acceleration is not quite there, but I do think that with Jayden Reed and Luke Musgrave, and then the possible elevation of Bo Melton, you have a lot more options this year for stretching the field, for just kind of filling in that speed that really has been an issue for 2 straight years. So, last year we didn't have MVS, and Christian Watson was kind of the only speed threat. The prior year, the offense kind of was falling apart at the end of the year, and a lot of folks, Kurt Warner, I think, was a guy who brought up the fact that, like, hey, Marquez Valdes-Scantling is not out there, and the field is super compressed, that you need that speed demon out there. Packers made a big concerted effort to add speed to this offense this year, I think, so that they're not in this Christian Watson or bust state of life anymore. Jake, any thoughts from you on the wide receivers?
Yeah, I agree. I think they went out and they got guys who, even if you don't think they win with speed, the throttle control near the line of scrimmage, it matters. I don't think anyone would say, man, Wicks is, one of the fastest guys I've watched play football in college, right? But he still found a way to win deep, at least in 2021, at a high rate. And that's just because of how deceptive he can be, the throttle control, and how he can set up defenders. And when you have a player like that, when you have somebody like Reed who just brings a different element of acceleration, especially in the short area. I keep going back to this. He's one of the very few guys of the last few years that I've seen win with separation on a fade route at the goal line. It just does not happen. That kind of stuff is just, you don't see that. So that type of acceleration is huge. He gets a step or two immediately. It's going to be difficult to stay with him. I do think bringing up Bo Melton makes sense. Like you said, JJ, if he's a decoy, I don't care. Just find a way to stretch some zones vertically a little bit. If you're going to flood one side of the field, just have him clear it out. Let your guys in Dobbs and maybe Malik Heath, perhaps, work over the middle of the field. Let them dominate in the intermediate area, and be possession guys that we know they can be, and that's a compliment for sure. So, yeah, I mean, the receivers, I think, like you said, I think there's enough speed there, and I think there's enough reliability, even though they're young, that I do trust them as long as the field can be spaced out. And I will say, not to get completely forward here, but I do think this game sets up really well for the potential Jermichael Finley 3-touchdown performance if the Love and Musgrave connection can start off hot, because the Eberflus defense is something Packers fans have probably seen a little bit before. It's a little tweaked. It's a slightly different. The Bears obviously paid a bunch of linebackers so they can cover a lot of space over the middle of the field. However, it's going to be tough to handle a guy like Luke Musgrave if he can bust up the seam. So if there's any weakness there, I think, you get Musgrave up the seam and you think, can these guys outrun him? I don't think so. So there's a real opportunity there to kind of go back into the McCarthy era and maybe pull one of those out of the hat.
Let me see here. I lost it. The Caldwell corner asked a question: what percentage of play action do you think we'll see Sunday? I don't know about a percentage that I think I could estimate, but Matt LaFleur certainly likes to use a lot of play action in his offense, and I think the Bears are going to be, it sounds like they are game planning for a very run heavy look from the Packers. It's what they're expecting. So play action should be particularly effective.
Yeah. And I think if you think about it, if what I was saying is correct and they are working downhill, they want to attack in that direction. So if you give them a reason to bite, that's when you can attack them down the field. So it even in part is just creating hesitation rather than them just immediately launching. If they have to stop and wait and see kind of what's going on because they don't want to get beat behind them, that can still give us enough time to operate. So I think that actually does make sense to incorporate a heavy amount of play action just to keep them honest.
Are you guys expecting a healthy dose of jet sweeps with Jaden Reed? Kind of similar to what LaFleur kept doing last year with Christian Watson. I think he ran 2 jet sweeps with Reed in the preseason, and we saw them. Big B had some footage of some trick plays in camp that they were practicing with Reed. I think that probably the idea was that he was going to be one of those offensive players that you were not expecting to be used a lot because you're supposed to be keying in on Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. Now Jaden Reed might be your wide receiver 1 if Romeo Doubs can't go. Not really the situation you want to be living in. Do you think that the original game plan was to incorporate a healthy amount of those?
Maybe. I don't know if we're going to see a ton of it, but I think there's a chance that if there's any chance you can move and get defenders out of their gap just a little bit with the threat of a jet sweep, jet motion, I feel like Reed is the guy to have in that role on Sunday. Because if like we talked about, if the Packers are gonna really bring a heavy dose of the run game, and I don't blame them for wanting to. I think it's a very inexperienced front in Chicago, minus Jones. So if they do that, I think jet motion, eye candy, anything that you can do to get any of the front 7 just a little bit out of position will be huge for a lot of early down success if their plan is to run it a ton.
I mean, it makes sense for the same reason play action does. If you, I think it would be good to, what we'll probably see is a lot of eye candy early. You'll see him come across the formation. They're not going to give it to him, but they want to see, are those linebackers going to start kind of inching that way? Are they going to kind of hesitate? If they don't, maybe, if you see him coming across the formation, they just ignore him. I wouldn't doubt if maybe on that 3rd or 4th time him coming across, they're going to give him the ball just to say, well, you don't want to go with him. Then that's best of luck trying to catch him.
Now you do have a healthy stable of linebackers. I think that there are some mixed opinions about Mr. Tremaine Edmonds, who kind of just came out of nowhere and magically had a great 5th year in the league after being a horrible linebacker 4 years in a row. But TJ Edwards, certainly a respectable linebacker, certainly a guy who can sniff out a lot of those plays. He's a smart guy. And I actually thought that Jack Sanborn had a pretty nice rookie season. I think those are kind of the 2 linebackers I have maybe more concern about blowing up some of those jet sweeps or just runs in general. And I think that the Bears are going to need to maybe shade a little bit of help over toward Yannick Ngakwe's side on run plays. Easily one of the big liabilities in run defense in this Bears front 7. The other guy there that you would like to pick on if you can create some of those one-on-one matchups would be Justin Jones, a guy who really his only skill is running his mouth in the offseason. Kind of one of their worst football players, period, last year on the Bears defense. He was actually the lowest graded guy who is starting for the Bears on defense this year, even lower than Kyler Gordon. So I would love to see, just after how much he ran his mouth this offseason, like I just would love to see a nice embarrassing stat line, a bunch of zeros across the board. It just would give me a little bit of joy.
I'd love to see Elton Jenkins just handle that all night long, because I'm thinking that's going to be probably the matchup, and I think that left side is going to be pretty dominant. I know we're more of a pass blocking than run blocking line, but I think that left side could actually be pretty formidable as a run blocking group. So yeah, I would absolutely love it if Jones just ends up on his back all night, kind of like that Jayhawks guard that's getting just worked right now.
We were talking about Drazan Newton just handling Kansas for Illinois in the game that's happening right now. By the way, we got a super chat from Mike. By the way, Ryan, are you gonna share some of this super chat money this time around?
Sure, I'll Venmo you 1/3 of $5.
Yes, please.
Okay.
So Mike wants to know, with Watson 24, what does this mean? 24-17 Packers. I don't know what this means.
Scores. Yeah.
Oh, with Watson, 24-17 Packers. Now that he's out, 24-17 Bears. When do we start to label Watson and Dobbs as injury prone? One more year of this? I will just say, with regard to Watson, he's got such a big frame, but he's slender. I would like to see him put on a little bit more muscle just to kind of match, because he can carry it, Yes, he is super speedy, but like he's kind of got the ability to be Calvin Johnson physically. Like, I just would like to see him add a little bit more muscle to, withstand some of the hits. Obviously, soft tissue, a little bit different type of injury, not injury from, contact, that kind of thing. Overall, I'm not super concerned about them long-term in their health, but maybe some stuff that internally the Packers should be investigating, conditioning, that kind of stuff. Let's talk about the tight ends. So Luke Musgrave is obviously the guy there. Is there a matchup that we want to try and exploit with the safeties? The safeties for Chicago, believe it or not, actually some of their better defensive players. Eddie Jackson somehow has kind of experienced a little bit of a rebirth after 5 years of I guess 4 years of kind of underwhelming play. His last really good year was 2018, and they kind of disappeared for 4 years. Last year, I thought he kind of resurfaced a little bit. Not really sure what we're going to see out of him this year, but Luke Musgrave is a rookie. Obviously, you would think that the advantage is going to go to the Bears here. But what role do you guys see for him in this offense, trying to make up for Christian Watson?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because you're kind of doing that chess match in your head, and I kind of wonder if he's going to play sort of the Christian Watson role, in that maybe it's going to be less about let's try to get him open down the field and get receptions and all that, and more about just keep them back, right? We want them to stay back. I want, if they're going to send Brisker up and they're going to kind of crouch everybody up, I mean, that's part of the reason I think Edmonds was brought here, was to kind of be that linebacker, the Tampa 2 linebacker that kind of drops. We want to make sure he drops, everybody needs to stay back. And if they don't, that's when you take the shot. But, I mean, I think that's part of the issue with Watson that can be kind of frustrating sometimes, is we want him to be that big play guy. We want him to do all that stuff. But I think the Packers, a lot of times, they want him to just be that guy that keeps the defense, keeps the field spread out. Because that's the goal. Keep everybody as spread out as you can, create as much space as you can, and then the defense can't stop you. So, I mean, we'll see. I don't know. There's so much, yin and yang going on. And like I said, just with the chess match, and who knows what the Bears are going to do, what the Packers are going to do. I would love to see Musgrave be able to do stuff, but that's just my first thought, is we're just going to send him just so that the Bears can see it up in the booth and go, all right, we need to chill out because they're trying to get behind us. That's just my initial thought, is how they're going to start things off.
Yeah, the weird thing with Tremaine Edmonds, so kind of a banner year across the board last year, but his freaky overall grade came from his sudden explosion in coverage.
Right.
He had an 88.1 coverage grade last year. The prior year, 37.5.
Right. We'll put that to the test.
Exactly.
Some click.
Let's just see. Let's just see.
Yeah. Let's see if it's
what
still
the
an 80.
2023 version.
We'll be able to tell the difference between an 80 and a 30 pretty quick.
Now, we have not seen Jordan Love very much in the pros, but the one thing, when he was in college, especially in the 2019 season, when you go back and you watch his tape from college, the thing that got him over and over and over again was not seeing these linebackers just sitting in coverage. Like, that was just his kryptonite. Like, hey, wide open guy. There's no defender near him. There's only 10 guys in the field. Sweet. Zing it. Oh, magically, this 6'3" linebacker stands up and snags it out of the air. We'll see. I mean, that was 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Still, that's all I'm saying. Okay, so there's two versions that we are, I guess, anticipating we might see of the Packers offense. One is the version with Romeo Doubs, and in that scenario, what comment?
I'm sorry. There's a lady, Allison, in the comments that's just roasting the crap out of the Packers and then putting little hearts in the comment section. It's the funniest troll I've ever seen in my life.
It is pretty good.
She's got to be a Bears fan.
I'm assuming, yeah.
I think so.
I don't recognize her name.
Tuckwab.
I was not going to say that.
That's like I feel like I'm supposed to call you a tuckwab. Get out of my channel, you tuckwab.
Is that actually your last name?
Okay.
All right.
One thing to Eddie Jackson really quick, because you mentioned the safeties.
Sure.
I don't think it's super surprising that it's been 4 years or so since he's been good. Why he had Adrian Amos on the team with him, who I think definitely helped him out. Now I do think was Brisker spectacular last year? Not necessarily, but I think he's enough yin to the yang of Jackson that I think he's going to at least help him out a little bit. It helps Jackson play a little bit freer when you have somebody, who is, kind of reliable, dropping in the box, but can kind of be versatile. That helps Jackson just kind of play more free. That's what I imagine the difference is, a little bit more so than anything else. Does that mean Jackson's, super good now? I don't think it necessarily means anything, but I think having a running mate is important, at least for him in some regard.
Yeah, Jackson only had to play 149 snaps in the box last year. He played 473 at free safety. That's because Jaquan Brisker was in the box most of the time when he wasn't even closer to the line of scrimmage. So it's a pretty good observation. So maybe the version that we saw of Eddie Jackson last year is going to be more similar to what we see of him this year. So I think the Packers are going to try and test that theory out a little bit and see what you got. The other thing we have to brace ourselves for is that the first drive, or maybe two drives that the Packers run, are exploratory. It's, hey, we want to throw some stuff at you and see how you react. So just it's been a year since we've seen any football. Get yourself in that headspace.
I'm not even going to see the second drive because my TV is going to be out my window.
All right, Jake.
Yeah,
we got two different wide receiver sets that we need to prepare for. One is Dobbs, Reed, and probably Malik Heath. Two is if Dobbs can't go, you're probably looking at Reed, Heath, and Samori Toure. Any thoughts on, what sort of success they might see if we are going with that second group, and what kinds of things would you be trying to do besides just survive?
I'll tell you right away, Samori Toure is the decoy all day. See ya. Take care of the safety. Take care of Eddie Jackson back there for us while everything is run underneath and in the intermediate area, if that is the case.
Toure's speed is not terrible. It's not terrible.
No, I think he could be a gunner if he really commits himself to it. Like he's got enough speed. Yeah,
Dude, he is Jeff Janis right now.
Yeah,
Like
JJ,
you do two things: you run straight down the field, and then you go on special teams and you run straight down that field.
and I will
well,
say,
no,
JJ,
no,
you
no.
pointed out
There's a
he's been
third
good on
thing.
the scramble drill. Yeah,
All
he's
right,
been good on
thank
the
you.
scramble
Thank
drill to
you.
get open. That
When
that
it's
is true.
when it's
If that is-
time to throw Hail Marys, you put Maury Toure out
Right.
there.
That's true.
You know, when Bakhtiari's got his guy one-on-one, you have the right side of the offensive line, they're one-on-ones, and Elton Jenkins and Josh Myers have firmly planted Jones on the ground. There will be opportunities for that scramble, right? So, you know, a guy like Toure can help you get open because Jordan Love's going to have, you know, all year to throw. Now, with those three, I think, boy, can you imagine Bears fans if Malik Heath just comes out and just says, "That's my time." Week 1, it's mine. They'll be like, "Who's this guy? Undrafted free agent. Why is our poster boy Kyler Gordon getting beat by Malik Heath? It's unbelievable." And then you go back and you go, "Well, he had 900 yards those last year with Mississippi. This isn't like, you know, necessarily
It's
a
the Alan
scrub or
Lazard
anything."
Lions game. That's what it is.
It might
It's-
be. Let's put
Going
that
into
down.
that
It's
game, we
either
were like, who the heck do we even have on our roster anymore? I mean, there's Alan Lazard, whatever. Oh, wait a minute. Can he play?
yeah.
He can play.
I mean, I think if the Packers win, it's one of two things. It's either Musgrave Finley them against the Tampa 2, or Malik Heath has just figured something out, and I don't. People will kind of just be dumbfounded, except for those who have watched Heath in the preseason, just blocking dudes down the field. He took a dude way out of bounds in the Cincy game, and he just catches everything thrown his way. So, you know, if Dobbs is out, I think you can in 11. I think you can get a little creative. You can throw Heath in the slot a little bit too. I think Reed can win outside in his own. He proved that at Michigan State, and then it gives you kind of an 11 personnel. You're almost in potentially 11 and a half personnel, the pseudo 12, where you have, you know, somebody who's willing to mix it up in Heath, along with, you know, your offensive line and hopefully Musgrave, who I think has shown he's at least capable of doing that. So it gives a little bit more credence to success running the football out of 11 when you have somebody like Heath out there who's willing to stick his nose in it and be successful as a run blocker. So that part of the equation gets interesting. And like I said, I think you have with Toure and Reed, there's enough speed to kind of stretch the field a little bit more. I think like we mentioned at the top, Reed is I think a little underrated in that sense with his ability to do so. And you've got a guy who's just in the comments just now, the first down, like, hey, he got open. He you know, he's winning through contact and he's picking up tough yardage for us when we need it. So
It's Lazard.
Yeah, it really is.
It's also
and it's very
Romeo
interesting
Dobbs.
if that, yeah, it is a little Dobbs as well for sure. So
the thing that I would be
I don't hate it.
about,
I would love to have Dobbs though. So
well, the thing I'm wondering about is if you have Dobbs and Heath out there, how do they use those two dudes? Do they try and have Romeo Dobbs fill in some of the Christian Watson stuff and have Malik Heath run the Romeo Dobbs routes? I don't love that plan.
No,
but also I'm not sure what your options are. I mean, Heath is just not the fastest guy on the team. This is why I like the idea of calling up Bo Melton for the practice squad. Is you can use him at times.
Yeah.
All I know is if Heath does have a big game, I'm going to be a little bit rude to Heath because I'm going to pretend that he is the biggest nobody on planet Earth and we just beat the Bears with this guy. I'm going to be like, dude, we just called him up just like a week ago. Like he's a nobody. You guys are trash, dude.
Oh man.
Hopefully he goes on to have a successful career after. I'm just saying for 1 week, he's going to be the biggest nobody on this podcast that has ever existed.
Oh man.
You're gonna need to send him a box of chocolates or buy a jersey or something.
Yeah, right.
I'll buy a jersey if he goes for 2 touchdowns because I'm putting him in DFS lineups, man. I trust it this week.
It would be pretty cool to be my only jersey as Malik.
That would be something. That would be really. But I do think you brought up the point of what do you do with Dobbs and Heath, and it's kind of like, okay, what do you want your slot receiver to do this week? Like what are you asking? Are you asking for, you know, more help in the run game, or are you going to ask him, you know, you have to get open, you have to be quick? Like that's obviously you're going to put 2 different players in those positions. If you trust, you know, well, I think Heath's really good at finding soft spots in zone coverage in the, you know, in against this kind of 4-3 Tampa 2-ish type of scheme, then maybe you keep Heath in there. You let Reed be the Z, which I do not hate that at all. And Dobbs is your X, running every route that needs to be run. And I think Reed, like we said, can stretch the field a little bit. But it's just going to be about what they're going to ask out of the slot receiver this week.
Well, if Toure is out there, he has not lined up a lot out wide for the Packers. 35% of the time last year when he was on the field, he was out wide. In the preseason this year, it was 23%. So, I think look, if Dobbs can't go and Toure's on the field, Jaden Reed is playing out wide. Like there's just no, there shouldn't even be a debate.
Right.
And I do think I need to say, as the resident Samori Toure, I don't want to say hater because it just doesn't sound nice, but sort of hater. I just want to say, as your wide receiver 6, I'm fine with Toure. I really, when you get to the point where you're talking about missing your top 2 wide receivers, it does make me happy that you got a guy like Toure that you can be throwing out there on the field. It was when people were talking about him as like, hey, he's wide receiver 3 or better. That's when I kind of overreact to the Samori Toure hype and try and tamp that down.
He got the Kyler Gordon treatment, man. Best shape. Oh my gosh, off season. He kind of got that a little bit.
Allison is still, she is just running her mouth in the chat.
She's hammered. Allison's hammered.
The Packers fan base will suck since Aaron Rodgers left. That's when players started leaving. Someone went to the Bears. Half of them went to the Jets. That's where Aaron Rodgers went, to the Jets. Well, thank you, Allison. I was wondering where he went.
Yeah, I didn't know.
All right.
Where he went either.
Last thing to talk about is any fantasy relevant information that we can hand to our audience, particularly the Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon fantasy tandem is always a tricky one to play. With Watson out, potentially with Dobbs out as well, is AJ Dillon a guy that you're starting in fantasy this week?
If if my running backs have hamstring injuries, I guess that's where I'm going.
No, the question is, does the Watson and possibly the Dobbs absence elevate Dillon to the point where you might play him as your flex, where you might look at him and say, hey, I think that he's going to provide more value this week because of these absences?
I think if you like the touchdown upside, if you think that Dillon's going to find the end zone, then yes, I think that's going to depend on it, at least in fantasy. I don't. I struggle with how many passes are going to go his way. I just think
the passes might go to Jones, which might lead to more
that's what I
carries
mean.
for Dillon.
It might, and it's just I guess it depends on what you want. If Dillon's going to tote the rock 14, 15 times for like 80, 90 yards, is that good enough for you? I feel like you have to believe he's finding the end zone if you're playing him.
I hadn't really contemplated it, but it kind of does make sense a little bit, especially the way Dillon's been playing, just to be the guy that wears down the defense. I could see them doing that. And I do think, as much as they want to utilize Jones, I think he's still going to be on a relative pitch count. The vision is long term with him, especially as he's getting older. So I don't see him getting it 15 times with a bunch of receptions on top of it. I don't think we're just going to be strictly running the ball a ton, but I could see a scenario where, especially week 1, especially with injuries, Dillon's going to get a little more carries than what we're maybe accustomed to. And to be honest, this Bears defensive front is a joke. So if he gets more carries and this defense is trash, and you're asking, is this a good time to play him? I think that would be probably a yes.
Let's flip the script now and talk about the Bears offense. And I think that we have done more than our fair share of Justin Fields coverage. So I want to really spend some time digging into some of the rest of the players and talk about what the strategy is for the Packers defense. Obviously, playing contain is going to be a huge focus when you're going up against Justin Fields. Also, if you're playing contain and you don't want to be running a lot of man coverage. So, this is one of Packers fans' biggest beefs with the Packers defense right now is how could you dare run zone coverage? Okay, well, do you want Justin Fields running all day? Just saying.
If they want a Kaepernick game, just ask.
Yeah.
So we're getting people in the right headspace to expect a lot of zone coverage because that's what you need to do unless you want to see Fields
Right.
running all day. Let's talk about new additions to this offense. First, we have the running back situation. There's 3 guys in that backfield there. Jake, who do you think is going to get the bulk of the carries, and how do you think that these running backs are going to differ from each other in their usage?
Well, I think with the Bears run game, it's pretty diverse. If you kind of look at what they ran last year, at least from a numbers perspective, they were more zone than gap, but there were enough gap runs mixed in to where you kind of had to be honest with how you played and aligned your fronts. I think with what you saw when the Bears were successful running the football last year is they, like you said, they have the 1-2 punch. They had Montgomery, they had Herbert. Montgomery, they let freelance a little bit. They were like, Montgomery, all right, one-on-one, if your kicking runs out, you're going to make this guy miss. And he often did. And that's what made them successful is Montgomery one-on-one with defenders was usually in favor of him when they were successful. And Khalil Herbert was, okay, stay patient, follow the blocks, find the crease, and take advantage. And I think Herbert's going to get the heavy dose to start in this game, because I think when you look at how, if they're going to be under center, I want someone like Herbert, take your time, build up some speed to the line, find the crease and hit it. If they're going to get into more gun, which I don't imagine they would, I don't know why. There's nothing telling us that, oh yeah, they're going to spread it out, let Fields run the quick game, which he's really, really good at, by the way. With really rhythm, the release of footwork, it's all a recipe for the quick game. Yeah, all of that just feeds it. No, so I think
timing,
they're gonna be under center
the
a ton.
yards after the catch. Yeah,
exactly. Well, DJ Moore yak might be a thing, but that's probably not how it's gonna come to pass.
That's all Justin Fields creating that, man.
Yeah, for sure. But I will say they do have a lot of eye candy. Jet motion, that happens a ton. They run a lot of QB lead and counter off of that, especially. And they'll give on it as well. The like kind of we talked about, Ryan, I think brought it up earlier, is just, first few times, take a look at how the defense is responding. And if they're staying home, you're giving it to them. So I do think we'll see Herbert initially. I mean, everybody's active. Foreman and Roschon were really good gap runners. I think you could see that both of them mixed in as well. Roschon scares the crap out of me. Especially just gobs of power. He is not afraid to just plow you over. But he's elusive for a big back too, and that's the scary part. Is he'll catch passes. He kind of did a little bit of that DJ Moore preseason thing at Texas. They dumped it off on a swing pass. They let the lineman come in front. Dude's weaving in and out of guys, running them over. I would be thrilled if they were like, he's a rookie. We can't have him out there. We can't put a rookie out there. They let Herbert and Foreman take 95% of the touches. But I just got a feeling that they know they can mix Roschon in, and that's what scares me. He is the type of like Montgomery guy where if you let him freelance, you let him bounce runs out, he's the type of guy who can say, yeah, I'll make that linebacker miss for you. I'll make that safety miss for you. So the run game is going to be diverse. There's going to be eye candy. Fields adding that element to the run game makes it all the more dangerous. You're going to have to be gap sound. You can't, take the cheese very often, and what they're showing you is often not what you're going to get. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge for the front seven, but the good news is I think the advantage, at least skill set wise, is with the Packers defensive line.
So the Packers strong safety is expected to be Darnell Savage. So in theory, he's the guy who's going to be shadowing Justin Fields. What are you guys expecting, though, in terms of Quay Walker, Devondre Campbell, and their usage with those responsibilities?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what we did the last 2 times we played them and how that all broke down, but I there absolutely almost has to be on every single play somebody keeping an eye, which does suck. And that's the reason the NFL wants to go in that direction. I mean, it cripples you. Like we've already said, you can't play man. Well, that's horrible. And on top of that, you have to play with 10 guys on defense because somebody has to spy the quarterback. And that guy probably can't catch the quarterback if he runs anyways. So
Yeah. You need like
um
5 Micah Parsons
right,
to
yeah.
play
So
defense, basically.
So yeah, I do think there's going to be a good amount of that. I think if I had to guess, and I almost think I remember this, Quay is going to be spending a good amount of time, kind of watching things. So and to be honest, that's mostly what he did last year. Anyways, he didn't really attack downhill very much. He kind of was patient and waited to see what was going to materialize. So hopefully that does help to kind of contain things. And on top of that, you just hope the defensive front just wins and does a good job of compressing the pocket and not letting them get out. That's the most important thing, anyways, because you start allowing these big gaps, he's just going to go. So yeah, we got to get some quick pressure, and I do think we're going to have probably Quay watching. I hope it's not Savage because I just not to just dump on the guy more than it already has been, but I don't know what his role is going to be. I don't really
Well,
see him.
that certainly is not his strength. Like the,
Right. Well,
the
that's
really disciplined plays.
right.
That's not his strength at all. If he's going to succeed, it's not going to be doing that.
I would almost rather have Rudy Ford. It feels like more his thing. Coming screaming downhill. He's got a lot of speed and just making it. I mean, he's a special teamer. He's a heat-seeking missile. Quarterback flinched, go get him.
Now, Justin
So
Fields is also humongous, though. He's not super
yeah.
fun to tackle.
Well, and that's also why I would prefer Ford over Savage because Savage is, he's a pretty slender guy that doesn't hit very hard. Ford, for whatever his weaknesses may be, at least he's going to throw his whole body into it and just try to eviscerate the guy's chest cavity. But no, there's not a whole lot you can do, and I'm just dreading it. And it's because eventually he's going to get out and do some damage. There's only so much you can do to mitigate a guy like that. And I think that's really is the goal. It's not to stop it; it's to mitigate the damage and to try to make him be a quarterback because that's where he's deficient.
Now, Devondre Campbell and Quay Walker are both very athletic linebackers. Neither one of them were fantastic run defenders last year. But Quay Walker, I think, is physically, he's the right guy to be on Justin Fields. Now, he's a second-year defensive player. He's going to need to be very disciplined, very locked in on what his responsibilities are. I thought he was a pretty decent tackler last year, a really good tackler. If you trust him in that role, he seems like the guy. Very speedy, ran a 4.52 40 at the combine. Just athleticism for days. Obviously, there's a trust issue there, but I thought he played decently well last year. I really did. I don't know. By the way, Jake, to your Micah Parsons point, the Bears did play the Cowboys last year, and they put up 29 points on them. Now, the Cowboys put up 49 points on the Bears' putrid defense, but
the Cowboys did not have 5 of Micah Parsons, to be fair. So also they didn't have a nose tackle, which they went out and drafted, which was a big deal because that was, Packers lit them up on the ground as well. But yeah,
Fields threw 151 yards and 2 touchdowns, and then he ran for 60 yards and a 3rd touchdown against the Cowboys. Yeah. Cole Kmet is the next guy that I think we should talk about. Again, this is the safety linebacker issue here with Cole Kmet. I think Cole Kmet is an okay-ish tight end. He has gotten better every year he's been in the league, so that's an encouraging sign for Bears fans, but still, I don't think he's that great. But it does provide more stress to those safeties and linebackers who already have to be concerned about Justin Fields. I think that possibly if Cole Kmet is used the right way in this game, his role running routes might be more impactful for creating scrambling opportunities for Justin Fields than what their wide receivers are doing.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a big part of play action, and with so much zone that they're going to see, having a veteran tight end, understanding where soft spots are going to emerge, I think that's going to be huge. I agree. Yeah, I just don't see the Bears like we talked about, kind of like, going to do a lot of quick game concepts passing the football. That just doesn't seem like what I wouldn't do that. Like, I want to see that. So yeah, I think it's going to come down to, a lot of these, intermediate crossers, right? They're going to either, they're going to talk to him about, and everybody knows the principles, like, zone dropping, once you find the soft spot, don't just run the crosser all the way across the field, right? Same type of thing. But yeah, I think with Komet, there's probably going to be plenty of focus on, of course, DJ Moore, because I do think it's run, chuck the ball down the field off heavy play action. But I do think part of that comes from, these nice little designs that obviously, many teams have in the bag is, Komet blocking and releasing, right? Finding that kind of late release into zone, as well as finding space in the crossers. I do think Komet, like you said, can do damage, and that's probably how he's going to do it. It's not going to be off of like stick concepts or anything like that. It's not, none of that. It's just, it's going to come off of play action.
Ryan, do you have any sort of a handle? Nate Davis, the presumptive right guard for the Bears, practiced on Friday, and that's, I think, like the first time I've ever heard of him practicing with them, and he's listed on the injury report as just personal.
Yeah.
Do you have any handle on the heck is going on with Nate Davis, and is he playing in this game?
I've never in my life heard of anything quite like this. I just interviewed some guys from a Bears podcast today and asked them about it. And I asked, has Nate Davis visited Chicago yet? And they said they're not entirely sure if he's been there or not. They're obviously joking, but no, I mean, he's been away the entire time. And then the one time I did see him, he showed up to practice. He's in his warm-up clothes, just like dapping up the coach, like, hey, what's going on? He's not done anything. And he basically has just made the decision to stay away. He wants to do his own thing. And
full participant in practice today.
Yeah, well, congratulations. It's his first time ever working with these guys, that you need to be working in unison and everything else. I mean, that's a disaster. That's a horrible situation. I mean, even if you're David Bakhtiari, that's not great. You need to be able to communicate with these guys. You need a couple reps to work in with these guys. He's not David Bakhtiari. I don't know why he's walking around like he's Mr. Hollywood. He is a very mediocre guard. And I don't know what the situation is. I'm glad. Maybe he'll end up being something, but I doubt it's week one. And
the right side of their offensive line I'm not going to say is, but it might be a mess. You got Lucas Patrick at center, who had a pretty bad year last year. And like, we're familiar with Lucas Patrick. Nate Davis, maybe, or not sure who, at right guard, and rookie Darnell Wright at right tackle. Look, hey, just because it's unknown and they haven't practiced together doesn't mean that they have to suck. But I wouldn't feel good about like the whole right side of the offensive line, which, I mean, it's to your advantage that Rashawn Gary is not going to be at 100%. And you're probably going to see Preston Smith over on the right side, over top of your left tackle, probably, and Kingsley and Agbar over on the left, over your whatever you have on the right side. But you also got Kenny Clark is probably going to be lined up over Nate Davis or whoever. I feel like this is setting up for a situation where the Packers' defensive front is just collapsing the pocket from the interior. If you're pushing these guards in the center backwards all day, that is a horrible place for a quarterback to start living, even if it is Justin Fields.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to jump the gun here, but I really believe the Packers win this game if they win the trenches, and they should. Offensive line, defensive line, freaking dominate. There's no excuse for our offensive line being anything other than dominant. Jordan Love should be standing in there for 8 seconds without a problem. Their defensive front is a joke, and our offensive line has been the same 5 guys the entire time being able to do this, and same with the defensive line. I mean, that offensive line, it's not only somewhat in shambles, and even Bears fans now who've been bragging about their offensive line are genuinely concerned about it. But I mean, it's just that they don't have anybody. Like you said, Lucas Patrick was a disaster last year. Nate hasn't showed up all year. You got a rookie at right tackle who, again, he could be good, but that's the equivalent of saying Lucas Van Ness is all you get. I'm not feeling good about that. The guy's not ready to play yet. I mean, he might flash, but I'm not, that's not a good situation to be in. Cody Whitehair has been kind of a disaster since his rookie season. And Bears fans are like, well, I think he could be good at center. Well, that lasted all of 5 seconds until Tevin Jenkins got hurt. So, yeah, you got one tackle that's a 5th-round guy in his second year that kind of played kind of well. Great. He might do something. But, yeah, we have to dominate the trenches. If we do that, we win the game. If we don't, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, they're also extremely thin. You mentioned that Tevin Jenkins is out. If anything happens to Whitehair or Davis, you know who is up next? It's 7th-round rookie Jatir Carter.
Yeah.
Which is a guy that we talked about, significantly as we were preparing for the draft, but he was very much a prospect. This is Caleb Jones, this is Yash Nyman. Like, he could over several years turn into something really special. You're not expecting anything out of him in year one.
Yeah.
You're in a situation here. I mean, I genuinely think that if there is an injury to either of your guards, you probably are not putting Jatir Carter out there. You're probably actually shuffling some stuff around and trying to put one of your tackles on the inside. Problem is, you really only have, 3 tackles. Larry Borum is the guy who would be on the field. And I mean, look, we saw what he did last year. There's a reason they drafted, an early tackle this year and are playing him right now. I think that's the look you're probably going with. You're probably putting, heck, maybe you're putting Larry Borum on the inside. Don't mess with the tackles because you can't trust, like Darnell Wright needs to stay where he's at. He's a rookie. He's still learning what he's doing. Leave him at right tackle. You probably don't want to move your left tackle. Put Larry Borum in instead of Jatir Carter, but still, and that is all just talking about if you get injuries. But we feel pretty good about this matchup with their starters. I mean, Nate Davis is like barely a starter anyways at this point.
Well, and I know he's going to be on a pitch count, but I really, really, really want to see Rashawn Gary against Darnell Wright. I understand you think he's going to be something someday. That's great. But Rashawn Gary is a freaking craftsman, and he is an elite athlete, and your guy does not have any idea what he's doing. He doesn't understand what the NFL provides, and that is a heck of an introduction into the NFL. So I'm hoping he gets a decent amount of snaps just so I can see him just work that guy and just crush the spirits of Bear fans across the nation.
I don't think Bears fans are braced for the defensive front that the Packers have.
No.
Because keep in mind, who else we got? Yeah, you got Kenny Clark. Yeah, you got Devontae Wyatt. We are geeked out of our minds right now about Colby Wooden and Carl Brooks.
Yeah.
Dude, this is the interior to attack with those guys. Colby Wooden and Carl Brooks are pressure machines. You feel great about your options off the edge, even without Rashawn Gary. If Rashawn Gary wasn't going to play, and he is going to play, we would still feel great about this matchup.
Sure.
Where we're at right now with Preston and Kingsley, heck, you got Lucas Van Ness. Like, he's going to be playing at some point for sure. Mm-hmm. If the Packers' defensive line can't take over the game against this offensive line, I think that there is kind of a crisis here of identity. What are we misjudging how talented we think this defensive line is? But they handled business in the preseason against, the Bengals have a good offensive line. Patriots have a great offensive line. Seattle, they got a pretty decent offensive line. These guys were wrecking all game long for 3 straight games.
Yeah. I do think the one other point about Wright really quick, don't forget about those splits with the grading, pass blocking, run blocking splits at Tennessee. And at Tennessee, very rarely are they asking you to do a lot in the run game. Like their entire offense, for the most part, when they weren't running the ball, was, hey, can you pass block for 5 seconds? Great, excellent. That's all you need. Just stand up guys who probably don't have moves in the bag yet, even if it's the SEC anyway. So it's like, we know this guy is, let's just take Alabama, for example, really quick. You take a guy like Dallas Turner who's explosive. Okay, well, you have to set wide against him. And, if you're powerful enough, you're shutting him down. No problem. You know that Will Anderson likes to go to the bull rush and play off of that. You know what you're going to expect. NFL is an entirely different thing. These edge rushers could do it all. They're putting tools in the bag that a lot of the SEC guys haven't done yet. And the other thing about the splits with run blocking is Tennessee ran a ton more gap plays than zone plays. Chicago runs more zone than gap. So you're going to ask a rookie who has not done a lot of reach blocking, a lot of front side, backside sealing. He has to get around guys. He is not experienced in doing so. Now, just because he wasn't asked to do it doesn't mean he can't do it. I get that. But at the same time, there are a lot of plays on Tennessee film where Wright is just kind of throwing his body at people. He's not really trying to engage. There's a lot of balance issues in the run game that happened last year. So this zone blocking for Darnell Wright, that's what I'm very interested to see, right? Can he seal front side on some guys? Can he reach block guys? Because I do think that's a very serious question, because you look at that and you go, okay, well, then why did they kind of, that's a weird kind of scheme to enter him into, and drafting him, 10th overall. So that's just something to watch. I know he's going to, they believe at least at some point he's going to be effective when they have these play action shot plays. They think he's going to be, handle guys loose slowly as a pass protector. I get that. That's fine. I can get on board with him there. But you guys are a run first team. I cannot wait to see what happens when he's got to go up against Smith, Gary, and Igbare on the edge. You're not just going to be able to stand still unless you're gap running the entire game. If they're going to run gap runs the entire game, fine, invalidate the argument. But I can't imagine that's going to happen.
And Darnell Wright, both in the preseason this year and in college, almost exclusively a pass blocker.
Yep.
Which is not something you super need with Justin Fields, because he doesn't like to sit in the pocket anyways. Too Old for This dropped a comment in our chat here. He said, Justin Fields makes the Bears offensive line look much worse than it is because he runs out of clean pockets into defenders consistently. And that is true. And I thought that the Bears offensive line got a lot of unfair criticism last year. I thought they were actually just not anywhere near as bad as anybody said last year. But I just looking at the current state without Tevin Jenkins, with the fact that their right guard just didn't even come to camp at all, I think that it's a serious downgrade from what they had last year. So playing contain on Justin Fields and preventing him from making the offensive line not an issue is going to be priority 1A and probably 1B as well for the Packers this week.
Yeah.
Prediction time. Do you guys think that there are going to be practice squad elevations this week? And if so, who you got? At wide receiver on the practice squad, we have Grant DuBose and Bo Melton. Any other positions? Because I haven't pulled up any other positions you want me to list off. At cornerback, we have three guys: Innis Gaines, Keandre Thomas, and Corey Ballentine.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, just going off the top of my head, you could make an argument for Corey Ballentine just because of the lack of depth that we have, if that ends up being a concern. And then, like you said, Bo Melton is obviously somebody to consider if you're just looking for a pure speed threat. I don't necessarily think they would do that, but yeah, that's a thought. I can't think of anything else necessarily.
I think you have to elevate a wide receiver, though, since Dobbs is supposed to be a game time decision. And if Tay Wicks is not at 100% health either, you could be looking at a situation where you only have three active wide receivers.
Yeah, depending on how many of these injuries. I'm thinking just Watson, but yeah, if Dobbs and Wicks are also no-go.
Yeah, if it's just Watson, then yeah, the corner room is pretty thin. That's something where, again, injuries happen. So it would not be ideal. I get it. Anthony Johnson's played corner, but hold the phone.
He's also
like,
a 7th round rookie.
Right, exactly. So I'd rather have somebody who's had some in-game experience to be there for some depth. But yeah, I think it's going to be corner receiver. I think they obviously feel very comfortable with their rooms in the trenches. So yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much all you're going to see, I bet.
So something I would like to do this season as we continue to do Packernet Derailed is score predictions each week on this show. And I'd like to keep track of our score predictions and see who's doing the best. And we'll use if you need tiebreakers, because I would think that most weeks we are all going to be picking the same teams to win or lose games. We can use over-unders and spreads and stuff as tiebreakers. But I do need to put this to a vote with you guys. Do we have to give one score prediction for this game, or can we give one with Romeo Doubs and one without Romeo Doubs? Because I just think that's such a big
that's
gap.
fair. No,
Sure.
When you have that kind of connection with Love, I think that matters. Now, I do think who said it? I don't remember who said it in the show. Was it Mike who said it? Maybe gave the prediction with and without Watson. Watson should be MVP with that type of flip. That's wild. I just remember seeing that at the beginning.
But, that was a 7-point flip. So the thing that I thought was interesting about that, so he said 24-17 Packers with Watson, 17-24 without Watson.
I guess it's a 14-point flip. MVP all day. Gosh.
Right.
Let's talk about
I'm curious I'm curious how that affects the defense having Watson out, because he just gave an extra touchdown to the Bears.
They thought he might run on the field to stop Fields from scoring, get a penalty,
Maybe Christian Watson is supposed to be out there on what's it called? Onside kicks. Maybe that's it.
Well, maybe.
All right, I have my 2 predictions written down. Jake, your predictions with and without Dobbs.
I think I do think the Dobbs is it matters. I do think that it in a game where I feel like everything in my mind is telling me that the rosters are they're not comparable at all. Like the fact that the Bears are still favored. Obviously the line went down. It's been 2.5 basically all summer. It trickled up to 1. It's moving to 1.5 because of the Watson news. It just feels like that it should be something like 28-17 or 28-20. I do think it's going to go over. It's been bet down 41.5. I think the Bears defense I don't trust, and I know the Packers they've touted the defense. I just have that. It's just weird. I feel like I have to see it first on defense for the Packers. So with Dobbs, I will go 26-21 Packers. Without Dobbs, I'm going to go 24-23 Bears.
So you're giving 2 extra points to the Bears if Dobbs can't play.
I am.
Okay. Ryan, score predictions.
I just, similar to the whole I haven't seen it yet thing, I just struggle with putting a lot of points on this. And I know that's not necessarily a lot of points, but I just feel like it's going to be kind of a low scoring thing. If you look at the last year, the Bears, they scored 10 and 19 against us. And one of those was week 2. So it was very early in the season. Defense really wasn't doing all that great. I'm leaning 15, just kind of split the difference for the Bears. Not necessarily because it's an easy score to get to, but just I feel like that's kind of right in that range. For the Packers, I think I'm going to put them basically. I don't know. I'm not going to handicap it too much with Dobbs, but call it 19 without Dobbs and 22 with Dobbs.
We got 22-15 or 19-15.
Yep.
I think that your odds of having the closest score prediction is pretty good. Your odds of
Nailing it is zero.
any of those exact numbers is 0.
Yeah.
All right, I did 24-19 with Dobbs and 20-19 without Dobbs. I'm just turning a touchdown into a field goal there, and I just think that the Bears are going to struggle to crack 20 points. I do think it's going to be a low scoring game. I'm taking the under here. Obviously, take the Packers to win it either way. A 1-point win over them is not going to be the most satisfying thing in the world. But I will take going 1-0 in week 1.
I agree.
Anytime. So, and I definitely cranked my score prediction down with having Christian Watson out of there. No questions about it.
Yeah.
And I will say that the one thing for me with the whole, like, hey, the Bears, the Packers defense, that score changing, is that if the Packers offense is really struggling to put up any points and move the ball, maybe it does change the flow of the game. Maybe it changes the urgency with which the Packers defense is playing. Maybe you got there, Rashawn Gary really screaming at the guys, getting in their face like, hey, we have to be the ones to win the game because the offense is not showing up today. Like, I think that could be a real thing, but I also think that that's probably a factor just having Christian Watson out. I'm not sure that Romeo Dobbs moves that needle enough for me to change that score for how many points I think the Bears are going to put up. All right. Any final thoughts from you guys? Any just, last, hey, highlight this matchup to watch, anything like that in this game?
I just need it to happen. I just am ready. I'm a weird combination of, like, I want this right now, and also I don't think I can handle this. And it's a weird kind of thing that I don't exactly know what's going on. But once we're in it, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to get some good food, kick back, enjoy it with your family, and just try to remember that the whole point of this is to have fun. Try to remember that.
Dude, I have like a 2-hour delay. There's a big family thing that came up that I can't get out of. So I'm going to leave my phone at home. I'm going to turn my phone off, put it in my bedroom. I got to go to this thing that I cannot get out of. And then I'm going to come home. My wife and I are going to not touch our phones, and we're going to play the DVR recording. And let me tell you, just the agony that I'm in thinking about that wait. I am dreading Sunday so much, not for the game, but for the, once kickoff starts and I know that, like, the rest of the world is watching this game.
They're playing.
Yep.
I start sweating every time I think about it. Like, it is so stressful to me. I can feel it, like, trickling down the back of my neck right now. Just I any other week, but like week 1, the Bears.
I know. If it was Atlanta week 1, I'd be like, all right, cool, like, sick. They're playing Atlanta, should be fun. Chicago. I don't like Chicago bookending the season, man. I don't like this at all. 1-18.
I do like it. I don't like it for my personal situation, but
I don't like it, man. I mean, it was a smart thing to do. The schedule makers know what they're doing, but I'm not a fan. I got one for you guys.
I think they're trying to juice the rivalry. Like, this rivalry has been, like, dead until this year. Exactly. I think they're trying to juice it up,
and they should. I think it's, they've been talking about the Rodgers is gone thing all off season. So it was a perfect way to be like, look at what we're gonna fuel all this talk. But I got one for you here. Over under 1.5 turnover worthy plays for Fields this Sunday. Not interceptions. I want turnover worthy plays because I want opportunities, not like, that they converted or not. Interceptions. I feel like it's over. You think
I'm going over.
Okay.
You said 1.5, right?
Yeah.
I'm over.
Okay.
Well, all right. I was already going to bring this up, but you brought up the perfect segue for this. Did you see who posted this? Oh, Wendell Ferreira posted this on Twitter. It's a big, beautiful chart that he put together. How often are quarterbacks throwing to the opponent?
Oh yeah.
All right, so he's got his chart here. It's interception rate and interception worthy rate, and you can see all by his lonesome, worse in every direction than any other quarterback. All right, the closest quarterbacks to him were Baker Mayfield and Zach Wilson, and he was significantly worse than either one of them.
Yep.
It's Justin Fields.
I'm really nervous, but it's Jake. You mentioned it not too long ago. Like everything you look at, we're significantly better.
I know.
Like I mean, Justin Fields. Like I'm terrified of. Like I just have this vision in my head. Like Justin did get better, and these wide receivers are going to be pretty good. But then you look at charts like that, and it's like Justin Fields is garbage. Like he's the worst ever, and you know he's just going to be throwing up the. I mean, even in the preseason, what was he? He couldn't throw screen passes. He's throwing them in the dirt. I don't know. I've got like the logical part of my brain saying you got this in the bag, and then the this imagination that I have is running wild. Like, dude, these Bears are going to be good, and we're going to be horrible, and it's going to be terrible. Yeah. I got to just lock myself in a cage. And
I know it's everything. Everything, like you said, tells you that Fields had 21 turnover-worthy plays in 15 games. That's 1.4 per game.
Yeah,
there should be one. At least there's going to be one. You know, there's going to be one.
Yeah.
So the question is, you're going to get two of them.
I just want that actual pick, though. I mean, I get like the turnover-worthy plays and all that, but I want an actual
that's why
I put money on him throwing a pick.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I didn't say pick, because I feel like pick is going to be like 0.5. I think you'd have to put it at, and that feels too easy. So that's why I wanted turnover-worthy, because he's got
fair enough
2 against Green Bay in week 13 and 1 against Green Bay in week 2. So it perfectly splits the difference there.
Real quick, can we play a quick game of Would You Rather with rosters here? I just want to hit some position groups.
Sure.
I'm going to do the head. This is going to give you the head heart thing the entire time. What the heck is this? Oh gosh.
All right. If you are
about the score the whole time.
All right. Let's say that you are a Vikings fan. All right, and so you have no attachment to either of these.
Can I be a Lions fan instead? We got the dub last night. I can pretend. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
This is our year.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Sweet. Sick. All right. I'm already in that mindset. Here we go.
All right. You're a anonymous NFC North team.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
All right. Quarterback rooms: Justin Fields and Tyson Bagent, or Jordan Love and Sean Clifford.
Packers. That's
Bagent.
I mean, I do like Bagent, but
yeah,
I think I lean the other way because of the starters and whatnot.
All right, running backs. Who are you taking?
Oh gosh, man, I have to pick against Roshan. I have to. I'm required.
Khalil Herbert, Dante Foreman, Roshan Johnson versus Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, Emmanuel Wilson.
Question: are we talking 2023 or are we talking like?
This is today. You have to play the 2023 season with these players.
Oh, okay. Packers.
I would say Packers. I will say not to give any Bears fans any excitement or anything. I like the running back room. I like it.
No, I do too.
Herbert
I was
Herbert
actually shocked. I picked up Herbert because I was shocked how far in the fantasy draft he went. I'm like, this is the number one running back on the number one rushing team, and he's still available.
Number 2 running back. All right, throw some respect on Justin Fields' name.
Fair enough. I understand. You're right.
But wide receiver.
RB1 is opening up opportunities for RB2 though.
Yeah.
So,
wide receiver. Which room are you taking for the 2023 season?
One of them has Claypool in it. It's Packers. Come on.
Don't forget too that Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs banged up right now. Watson already ruled out.
Don't care. One of them has Claypool in it. It's not that one. It's not that one. Sorry. Can't do it.
For the 2023 season, and with the handicap of I've already got Christian Watson ruled out for week 1. I will give the nod.
But if it's for the 2023 season, if it's for week 1. Then I get what you're saying.
Tamori Toure. Like they got Chase Claypool. We got Tamori Toure.
Hey, Claypool, man. Funniest trade ever.
Ryan, tiebreaker.
I don't like this game because I don't ever want to say Bears anything.
You might have to say Bears for the Malik Heath run if it happens, right? Because Malik Heath is nobody, right? If he goes off,
Oh yeah,
That's true.
So
yeah,
you might
gotta
have to
downplay
lean.
Malik
You might
Heath.
have to lean into that bit a little bit here.
I just have a hard time with DJ Moore being. I mean, I can't make a case for anybody outside of Christian Watson taking DJ Moore. Outside of that, it's a question mark, but it's a question mark for us too. And if Darnell Mooney was pretty solid 2 years ago, I don't.
Not terrible. He's not
He's
terrible.
not, but I think
He struggled last year, but then there was the injuries and whatnot. I don't know. I would probably, if I'm being honest, have to say Bears, assuming Watson is out until further
if it's
evaluation of what we have.
If it's for week 1, then yeah.
Yeah.
But if it's full season, like,
yeah,
I assume Watson will be back at some point, and one of them's got Claypool on it once again, just to keep the bit going because it's really good. I like.
They got Valus though.
Oh man, Valus is older than Adam Thielen, right?
I think so.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, same draft class, 2012.
We're skipping offensive line. That's a dub right there.
No, do second team versus.
Okay, actually, that actually kind of sounds like fun.
That's actually
because the entire Bears second string is just Jatir Carter and Larry Borum.
Right. So Bears first string, Packers
Dan Feeney.
second string. Who's better?
Bears first string. I would probably for one game. I might go with Packers second string.
We got Yash and Rashid at tackle.
I think you feel fine about that for one game.
Sean Ryan, Royce Newman, which isn't anybody's favorite.
Well, then you don't have a backup center because that's the problem is you can't play John Runyon, Elton Jenkins, or Zach Tom at center because they all played for you for your first string.
Well, I think you can put. I think you can put Runyon there. If Tom is indeed
that's true. Let's just say backup. He's our backup center.
I think you have
to put
to.
Runyon in there.
I think you have to kind of cheat there. It's close. I'm not sure.
For one game, I might.
I think I like our tackles better.
Yeah, tackles. I agree. That's a.
I don't know.
I mean, you're talking
Very
Cody
tough.
Whitehair, Lucas. I mean, Lucas Patrick was our backup, and we upgraded from him.
Right.
So you got.
We'd have a better
Cody
center.
Whitehair, Lucas Patrick, and then Jatir Carter. No, sorry, Nate Davis. Allegedly, if he shows up.
Yep.
Is he going to wake up in Illinois
on
Sunday morning? That's the question.
Not sure.
Or is he going to have to drive to Illinois from wherever he's staying?
I don't know. That's
all right.
That's a tough
defensive line. Anybody
feels like you have to go to the second string to make it interesting.
Right. This is a stupid question.
I genuinely think you have to do it again. Which is again this whole on paper the trenches aren't close. It shouldn't be at all.
I'm
your starters are Yannick Ngakoue and DeMarcus Walker at edge, Andrew Billings and Justin Jones on the inside. It's the Packers second string versus
Packers second string dominates the Bears starters. It's not close.
The Packers second string. Because you're looking at Colby Wooden and Carl Brooks,
right?
And
Van Ness
probably Kingsley,
Van Ness, and Inigbare,
and Van Ness.
I kind of like that.
And heck, you know what? If one of those guys isn't performing, pull him and put Justin Hollins or Brenton Cox in there. I'm still fine with it.
I like that. I like it. Oh, can we get a front one time this year? Inigbare, Van Ness, Brooks, Wooden. That sounds fun.
That would be fun.
Maybe, yeah.
It'll happen.
Maybe when we're up 24 on Carolina late in the season, they could throw.
They've got those rotations going. One of those times that'll be a thing.
That'll be sick. I will say it's very funny that Ngakoue is a starter for Chicago when the whole idea of the 4-3 is to make sure you have defensive ends who can defend the run.
He's the worst.
That's
ever.
hilarious. That's hilarious to me because they were like, "Well, Gibson just doesn't fit, man. He just doesn't run, defend the run as well." They were talking like Gibson versus Khalid Kareem, and they were like, "Oh, Kareem defends the run better. Like he's more multiple." Oh yeah, but we're gonna try to Ngakoue to start on the edge. By the way,
so we didn't even talk about the Jordan Love run threat.
Yeah,
we didn't.
I mean, what the heck are the Bears gonna do? Like, it's all linebackers. It's going to be all linebackers trying to stop that.
Yeah.
Well, Tremaine's pretty fast. I'll give that to him. I'm also. It's funny that
Tremaine's
is listed
busy with
as the middle
Musgrave, though.
linebacker. Yeah, that's the thing. So
If we were fully healthy, I don't know how this defense even slows us down.
nope.
It's a terrible
Again,
defense. It
the
really
paper, on paper, it just doesn't look good.
I get that they got safeties and linebackers. Congrats, but this
They
is
do.
not a sustainable situation. When the most important aspect, your defensive front and your corners, are not any good, that's you're sunk.
Yeah.
So I think we would take Bears safeties,
Yeah.
Packers
One.
corners, but linebacker is to an outsider, all right, a Viking or Lions fan.
They would
this
say
is
Bears.
probably
Bears.
yeah.
It's a lot
Nah.
closer than
Which-
anybody would give it credit for.
Yeah, it's like TJ Edwards.
He's solid.
I'm kind of surprised he's not listed as the Mike. I feel like he knows he's the better processor, knows what's going on, while Edmonds falls for the eye candy. He should probably be the weak side guy, to be honest. It's not how they list him. Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's that scenario, if that's how they're setting things up, then I like Green Bay's setup better. But from a pure player perspective, it's probably based on, it's probably Chicago.
Jordan Love as a runner. How many yards and I don't know. How many times does he find the end zone on a 2-point conversion, on a touchdown? What number
Just
are you
running?
putting on that? Yeah, just as a runner. And how many yards?
22.
22 yards?
22 touchdowns.
No, 22 2-point conversions.
Yeah, okay.
All right, yes or no? Does Jordan Love find the end zone at any point, either on a touchdown or a 2-point conversion, as a ball carrier?
No.
Or a receiver?
So.
Receiver.
Week 1, I would guess no. In the season, yes, at some point.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, we are at an hour and a half, so I think we should wrap this up.
There's
Guys,
still people here, believe it or not. Granted, 10%
is-
of the people that are here are Allison still talking about Aaron Rodgers being with the Jets.
I don't quite.
I cracked up 45 minutes ago or so. I think Mike was the one who had the "Hey, Allison, pass the ball" on comment. That was
yes.
Allison. I just want to thank you for helping us stay on brand with Packernet Derailed, because
It's very true.
we were
It
very
wouldn't have
much
been
in
way off
danger
the
of
rails.
staying on rails. Yeah.
Yeah, it was way too organized tonight.
Please
Thank
come
goodness
back.
you were here.
We enjoyed
Yeah.
having you. I don't know what you're talking about, but just keep talking about it. We'll
I
be
like it.
here.
No.
If the
Provide you a
Packers win,
platform.
please come back. If the Bears win,
Yeah.
don't ever want to hear.
You will
from
be
your
banned.
freaking person.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, that's
Under
it
number
for
of comments
today.
till block. That'll be the derailed portion next week if the Bears win. So there you go.
I have to, before I turn my phone off and leave it at home, I got to put something on Twitter where I've been running my mouth all summer, like specifying, hey, listen, if the Packers do lose, like I'm gonna come and eat crow. I'm not avoiding Bears fans for during the game. Not on my phone, so they're gonna blast me if the Packers don't.
It's a good day to be off Twitter until the
That's
game's
true.
over.
That's true. Just stay
Depending on the result, I guess you can come back on when it's over.
If we lose, I probably am not going to turn Twitter on until the next day.
Nah.
I don't blame you.
I'll probably wait till like Wednesday or Thursday.
I'll just pretend I didn't see it. Start just posting stuff about Texas and Bama. That's all I'll do. Be like, hey, you see that game last night? That was pretty sick.
Freaking Brewers, what are you doing, man? Jeez.
But if we win, I'm going to be up till 2 a.m. scrolling through just the absolute butt hurt, the just blasting by Chicago fans and sports radio in Chicago. I mean, this city is going to be crumbled to its knees if they don't beat the Packers, especially considering how shorthanded the Packers are. I mean, they're trotting out nobody.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah,
it's true.
He wears what number does he wear again?
Too old for this. Has one final cut or comment to take us out. And man, it is just on brand.
On brand.
His username. I just post all my hot takes on MySpace. Nobody bothers me there. All right, that's going to do it for us today. We'll be right back here next week. Follow us on Twitter at JJ Leahy, at Pack_Daddy, and at Jake NFL Draft to stay up to date on all things Packers or ask us questions. Make sure you're subscribed to Packernet on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for listening. Until next time, go Pack, go.